Hello everybody, this is a Raid Shadow Legends video, and I'm on my main account, and I'm going to show you my one-key Ultra Nightmare team. It's actually able to one-key with running as an unkillable team, Ultra Nightmare, Nightmare, and Brutal, and I believe I'd have to check it because I've changed the team up a little bit recently, but it actually is capable of running as an unkillable team. It was capable of running as an unkillable team on hard. You just had to change the order of the skills a little bit. But I'm not going to worry about that because you can just hit auto or use a different team for hard if you're inclined to make that run because you have an extra key or something. Because once you have a team that can do really any decent amount of damage, you can clear any of the first three pretty easily. So, Jintoro here is my damage dealer. Originally I used, I believe it was, I used Dracomorph, who I have been lucky enough to get. If you want to see my my main account roster here, I do have a pretty good selection. I've been lucky for a few. There's still some gaps in here that I'd like to fill. Currently, I'd love to get a Brogni because I want to experiment with some ideas I have for doing one of the shield. Sorry about that. Sometimes I, have that happen in the side of my mouth. But, yeah, I'd like to give that a shot. I don't have Krisk, but I think it might be possible to do an infinite shield team with Brogni and some other champions. And even if it's not as feasible, I would just, I would enjoy experimenting. You can see I have some plus ones up here. Like, it was like within 2 months of getting Yannicka from you got the fusion tokens from Clan store, I think it was, to get Yannicka. It's been a while since I got her. Yeah, it was Clan store. It was like, yeah, but it was like within 2 or 3 months of getting her, I got another one. And, yeah, my very first legendary pull was a damn Drexstar. And I wasn't unhappy about it, but, it's just go figure. The very first one I got was one that you can get from doing 3v3. But eventually I pulled a second one and got the one from 3v3, so I've actually got another one down here at 50. And I keep them around for Hydra. Don't really use him all that often, but it is what it is. I've got Prince Kymar, I got a tower, I got Walking Tomb Drain for his fusion. It took me ages and ages to get Arbiter. Before they made the changes to the arena, I was just stuck, hard stuck on trying to clear the arena missions to get Arbiter. But they made those changes, and since then, I was able to get her. Now I'm stuck on the Ryzen fusion because I haven't, I didn't realize it was a mission that you had to fuse him, and I never really had any super what's the word I'm looking for? Impulse to fuse him. But what you gonna do? Eventually, I'll get him. I got Dracomorph and Valkyrie, one of my most surprising pulls. I quite literally almost fell out of my chair because I pulled them back to back. and it was just like a regular 2 times ancient event, I think. Something like that. I mean, I pulled Dracomorph and Valkyrie back to back. You know, and I got lucky for whenever Sylvan Watchers gets Faction Wars, because I've managed to get a Lil and Elva. I don't know how I got lucky to get both of them, but I did. I pulled a Yumiko, I've got a Chogger, I've got Mithrayla, I got Vlad, I pulled a Tuhana Rock. I think that Tuhana Rock, it was a 10 times event to pull her, and, you know, I had like a handful of Void Shards and went, hell with it, YOLO, and I got her. And damn is she good. You know, I got a Baron who was kind of a just sitting there kind of champion until recently. Of course, Death Knight and Ninja and Rhonda. I've been playing long enough that I got all the login champs. You know, I've got a pretty good selection, I think. You know, I got my Cell, of course. I pulled a Foley fairly early on. Got a couple of good ally attack champs. Haven't really been able to make a lot of use of them, but I got them. Got Ragash. Got Theodore the Savant. He can be interesting. He's not as good, at least from my plane, as I would hope. And I've got a second Valkyrie. I thought about just going ahead and +1ing my original, but she is so damn useful in so many areas of the game, including sometimes Hydra. So that's why I went ahead and just went 6 starter and kept her around. Epics, you know, I got a Ginbo, and I got Mighty Uko, and got lucky enough to pull a 5-star blessing soul thing on him. You know, yeah, I've got a pretty good assortment of champions. Down here, the ones I haven't quite gotten all the way up, I got a Cleoptrix is one of the logins. Cupidus I recently pulled. Deliana, who I believe I've got a second copy of. I just stuck her in the vault because I have her as a guardian champion or whatever. And I do have some other ones down here that I just haven't quite gotten around to leveling up yet. I have a 3rd King Garog. Morrigan, I actually pulled her from a shard, didn't do the event. Yakarl I got from the clan store. I got Corvus, Saito, Crypt King Grawl, Elenaril, and Ray, Harvest Jack. Took me forever to finally get a Skull Crown. I think I only recently pulled her after a long time. And I haven't quite gotten around to building her all the way out to try to do a Blender arena team. Probably because I've already got a fairly decent team using Arbiter, Vlad, Tahana Rock, and Baron. And a few others for different situations, but as long as I go first, and it's usually as long as Vlad gets that new version of his skill where he does the decrease of defense with a good hit, you know, and then Baron comes in with that ignores shield and block damage and 50% of the target's defense, you know. And then, of course, I got him in Savage gear, so it works pretty well when it works. You know, you've been playing the game long enough, you know how it is with Arena. Sometimes there's a team that it's like, this should work, but it doesn't work. Just because they have some annoying setup with the gear, the Hydra gear. What is that? Yeah, the stone skin one. A lot of the ones that are really annoying are the ones that have stone skin. So anyway, let's get back to the point of the video, which is my clan boss team. So let's see here. So yeah, Jintoro is my damage dealer, and for a long time I had to use other champions because his passive makes it really irritating to try to speed tune him. It's really difficult if you have any kind of team that uses turn meter fill effects, like the team I use, which is the Heiress team, which has 2 champions that do turn meter fill. But when Deadwood Jedi did the update on his the speed calculator, the speed tune calculator for Clan Boss, it included Jintoro's passive in the calculations, which made it a hell of a lot easier to put together the team. So his stats, and for a while I was using the slower version, and I was getting pretty damn good damage, but then I decided to go with the 3-1 ultimate Heiress, you know, with the DPS at 3-1, you know, 3 turns to every one the clan boss takes. And I had to do a bit of a sacrifice on damage initially, but I've slowly been creeping it back up, because I did have his attack at well over 5,000, and I think critical damage was lower, but I managed to get a couple of really good pieces of gear that allowed me to push that back up. I have his accuracy at 227. A little bit low, but for the most part, you know, he lands his debuffs on the clan boss for the most part. So yeah, I mean, he's got 4,300 attack, you know, too much crit rate, but take what you can get when you have to have certain levels of speed. 274 crit damage. So he hits pretty damn hard. As, you know, the gear I've got on him, got a pretty good banner. Got a couple of the counterattack accessories. And I really wanted these on here. I possibly could, over time, I have had some accessories that potentially could be a bit better, but I've yet to get ones that are as good as these and have the counterattack ability from the clan store. Because just having that a little bit of a chance to counterattack, which is also why I have, well, I don't really have any counterattack stuff in his masteries. I did, but then I changed them to be a little bit better, because even though the speed tune calculator says you can't use Cycle of Magic, it really depends on the champion. You can't use it on any champion that might disrupt the speed tune in some way because of it. But on Jintoro, all having this does is give me a small chance that his A3 or A2 will cool down a little bit quicker. Which is why my ultimate goal is to get him in reflex gear. But that is who knows how far away, because trying to get the gear, good enough gear to replace what he already has just in that one specific set is difficult. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward as far as his masteries go. Yeah, of course, you want Master Hexer to have that chance to extend the duration of his debuffs. That one is just there because it's there. And other than that, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. There's nothing special about his masteries other than making sure I have that cycle of magic so I can try to get back to the A1 or the A2 and A3 quicker. He does have Brimstone on him. Only 2-star Blessing. Unfortunately, but, you know, you take what you can get. And really, when it comes to the blessings, it's not, you know, I haven't been lucky with any of my clan boss ones except for Heiress. All of them, I've basically just saved up my tokens in the store for the Soul Merchant. I went ahead and bought that as preemptively because one of these days, one day I will have Brogni. And I've accumulated enough that I can do that. So yeah, I've just been over time buying them up at the store as I've been able to. The blessings, you know, because they really make a big difference. So then the rest of the team is standard myth Heiress. We've got Demytha, of course. She's at 293 speed because this team does require high speeds. Almost 3,000 attack. Part of that comes from blessings, faction guardians, and arena and Great Hall and all that. She only has a 92% crit rate, 122% crit damage, but she doesn't attack all that often anyway. So I just make sure that, you know, when she does attack, she usually gets in some decent hits. And her blessing is cruelty, because this one is capped on how much it can do. You know, it can only go up to 10% for bosses at 3-star, where I've got her at. Then we got Seeker, also at a 3-star with Phantom Touch. Again, masteries on Demytha, Seeker, Deacon are fairly straightforward. Deacon, you can use this the max HP one to kind of psych out the clan boss. It sees this as a buff, so you can put this on your lead champion or any other champion that you need to try to keep the clan boss from hitting with the stun, and it does help direct its attention towards other targets, which is why he's got that build. So I've got Seeker, 184 speed, 2800 attack, full crit rate, 148% crit damage, not terrible. You know, and then I've also got him in Toxic Gear. Easier to put Toxic Gear on Seeker, and I've also got it on Deacon because their speed requirements are the lowest for this team. Deacon is at 198, 3500 attack, only 96% crit rate, 169% crit damage. So, you know, Demytha and Deacon, I could work towards getting 100% crit rate. That would help the team do a bit more damage. My Spirit Affinity team uses Geomancer because you have to have a Force Affinity champion for Spirit Affinity Clan Boss with this setup. He's got 3700 attack. He doesn't have much crit rate or crit damage, and his accuracy is a little bit low, but I had to get him up to 261 speed to work with the team. So I was happy to get it to where, for the most part, he will land his A3, HP burn quicksand grasp thing that works in sync with his passive. So usually, even Spirit Affinity Ultra Nightmare, it will still one key. Not always, but usually. Just depends on if luck isn't on my side. Then we've got Heiress, who, again, I was lucky enough to get a 5-star blessing. I got her with Phantom Touch, so 75% chance of inflicting bonus damage after the nerf. You know, some good stat boosts there. Mastery's pretty standard. Again, I've got her with that max HP one, just because that'll make it less likely for the clan boss to target her. And because of her passive ability, you don't need counterattack skills on her. And it's an unkillable team, so you don't really need any of the defense tree skills on her at all, or anyone on the team. If you can get the counterattack ones on any of them, Seeker and Demytha both have the counterattack skills because they can make use of them, but she counterattacks every turn anyway, so you don't need them. Her stats are pretty good: 4,500 attack, 267 speed, which is what it needs to be. Again, her crit rate is way higher than it needs to be, but you take what you can get when you have high speed requirements and you're trying to get 100% crit rate and as much damage output as you can with the speed you need. 156% crit damage. Not super high, but not bad either. And that is the team. Then we can come over to Ultra Nightmare. Battle, I've already got it set up. You can see I've got my version with Geomancer in here. And the setup is, I have it set so that Deacon will always prefer time compression first. I think it is possible to set this up to where you can just auto it right from the start, but I prefer to manual for the first few turns just to make sure it gets in sync. Jintoro, you don't really even need to set his skills. I just did it because you can. Seeker, I think Seeker will always use Tailwind if it's available, but just in case, I have it prioritized. With Demytha and Heiress, you have to set it to where they will prioritize the skills properly. Because, especially Heiress, because she will not use Exhortation every time if you don't set it up so that she will, which is, having this ability to set your skill priorities and stuff is the only thing that actually made using Heiress for teams like this viable. And then basically we just start. A3. Heiress is A2. Hit with Jintoro. I always skip the first one because Jintoro, puts all. He didn't hit weaken this time, but he did get decreased defense. We skip A2 the first time. A2 for Demytha. First turn from the boss. Whack. Whack. Now we use this because there's a possibility of getting, Jintoro managed to get the 3-turn cooldown for the decreased defense, but if it had only been 2 turns, like normal, then Deacon would have just reapplied it. And then we can hit auto. She attacks and does decreased defense. Gets in there and does his skill, and with this setup, Deacon, it isn't fully unkillable until turn 3. And then, yeah, basically you just wait and it's off to the races. And at this point it is fully unkillable. Heiress is cleansing the stun at the beginning of every turn. It's synced up, and as I said, we're off to the races. Getting some brimstone hits in there, which is always nice. And you can see already by turn count 3 or 4, we're lapping damage on the turns for the boss. Yeah, getting all those poisons in there from the toxic gear on Deacon and Seeker. Jintoro keeping Weaken up most of the time, and between Jintoro and Deacon, decreased defense is on pretty much all the time. Brimstone, is hit or miss. It is the only problem with this team comp, is that sometimes Deacon and Seeker get so many poisons on the boss that other debuffs don't apply. But it doesn't happen that often because they don't get applied for very long. Gotta love those smite hits from Brimstone. And there is Jintoro's big whackety skill. Usually does a million or more damage every time that triggers, and because he's going 3 times every turn, he gets back to it way quicker. So he did over 200k on that hit right there. When the mastery triggers, he's doing somewhere between 200 and 300k damage. See, like right there, that was almost 3k damage. So yeah, I don't have any particular software ability to let me speed things up or pause and come back to this, so I'm actually going to just let this run, and you can skip ahead if you want to, or if you're inclined you can watch the whole thing. But if at this point you've already felt like you've watched enough of this video, oh, there he goes again. Good hits. Not as good as it could have been. But anyway, usually it does between 95 and 100 and some million damage. And again, It was just, you know, making small adjustments once I got the team I wanted to use. It's just a matter of gradually improving gear. When I was able to, I went to the 3-1 turn DPS, Ultimate Demytha team setup. Which, at first, it didn't increase my damage output dramatically. It was a few, you know, 3 or 4 million more, which is nice, not hugely dramatic though. But after being able to adjust gear and keep adding to the Great Hall and more blessings over time, that the output has creeped up to get into the 90s or over 100 million range. But yeah, I'd really love to get Jintoro in some reflex gear, but I know that that's going to be an undertaking because, firstly, Ice Golem doesn't have very many good gear sets, so farming Ice Golem sucks. And Reflex seems to have a very low drop rate. I wouldn't mind also a counterattack set. What is it, Retribution or whatever it is, the counterattack set, which is also Ice Golem. Yeah, the problem is that there's not a whole lot of other sets that I would feel any point in working towards. The team already has more than enough poisons going out from toxic gear, so putting toxic gear on Jintoro would not benefit the team at all. It would probably be a hindrance because then it would definitely be getting too many poisons and other debuffs, weaken, decrease defense, and smite in particular, being a very important debuffs, probably wouldn't go on as often as they do now. Which is almost, they're on there almost every turn. In fact, it's fairly rare that weaken and decrease defense aren't applied, and this one I've been very lucky with smite. It's been applied quite a lot on this run. But yeah, I mean, there's just not a whole lot of gear sets that I think would really boost Jintoro's damage. The counterattack set would, because it would allow him to get a few more hits in. And of course, the biggest set bonus would be the reflex set to get him back to his A3 as quickly as possible, as often as possible. And obviously things just like boosting attack percent, having an attack set on him would be beneficial. Anything, ignore defense would increase his damage a little bit. So, savage gear would be a bit of a boost. But that's really more of a PvP or wave clearing set, in my view. The clan boss, I think, doesn't have really high defense. And with decreased defense plus the cruelty from Demytha, it's already been lowered dramatically. So yeah, ignore defense. Gear isn't hugely beneficial. So yeah, that just leaves kind of trying to put, as far as gear upgrades from set bonuses and stuff, raw attack and crit damage bonuses would be the biggest benefit after counterattack, because I think just getting in those extra hits from counterattack would help boost his damage quite a bit. Or, of course, I think the biggest boost to his damage overall would be reflex gear, because I think that would get him back to his A3 more often, and he'd be able to get that big 5-hitter in it's 5 hits. Does 4 extra hits. That's really the only drawback to the counterattack gear on him, is that since he is the stun target, he only has the chance to counterattack 2 out of 3 turns in the cycle. But again, it's just having counterattack gear on him so that he could get that extra hit in, even if it is only 2 out of 3. Having that increased chance to get that extra hit in regularly on those turns would definitely increase his damage. But obviously only if I could put the gear set on him without dropping his stats, which is why that's like a long-term goal, because like I said way back, trying to get a complete set of gear to put on him that has the stats to be at least comparable to what's on him now, yeah, that's a hell of a task. So we're at 30 turns, 31 turns, and 58 million damage. So very obviously gonna one key easily. I don't know what he means, or they mean, whatever. Whomever they may be, or whatever. If there's anybody that's actually still watching this, do you actually like watching clan boss runs like this? And I'm not saying like you're crazy or something, because personally I kind of find it cathartic in a way. It's almost relaxing to just sit here and watch it. Watch the numbers tick up, the skills going off. And just that, clan boss is my favorite thing in Raid. I most of the other content. I don't really care for PvP very much. I kind of really, really hate the Hydra. It is so aggravating to me. Annoying, irritating, infuriating. Pick your synonym. I really do not like the Hydra. And mostly it's just because of how long it can take. Because even if you have a good team for that particular rotation of the Hydra, if you get really unlucky with heads regrowing, or sometimes something doesn't go off when you need it to, there's just so many ways that you can have a run completely ruined. Even if you're just trying to do a normal Hydra and get your, what is it, it's like 6.6 million damage to clear the top rank, or the top chest for normal Hydra. But anyway, yeah, we on here cleared the clan boss one keyed in what was that, about 36 turns or so. My clan isn't to the point where it can clear Ultra Nightmare yet. Nightmare gets cleared every day, so we get the double chest on Nightmare, but we haven't gotten through Ultra Nightmare yet. Which is probably true of a lot of clans. I would say it's a lot easier to clear Nightmare full, because Ultra Nightmare just has such a huge amount of HP to try to get through every day. Sorry about that, I got a bit of a head cold. But yeah, to clear Ultra Nightmare every day, you basically need, what is it, like half your clan doing 100 million runs or something? Somewhere in that vicinity. So yeah, it just takes a while. But you know, once you have a good core of people in your clan, which again, that's just a thing of time, you have to clear out the people who aren't playing often or have given up the game. You know, people who weren't participating to the degree that you would like them to. You know, you just have to clear them out, and eventually you build up a good core group of 10 to 15 to 20 members of the clan that are, you know, fairly active players, and you can start clearing Nightmare every day, and eventually you get to the point where you clear Ultra Nightmare every day. just love Jintoro's attack animations. He's one of my favorite champions. That's why I wanted to build a team around him, because I knew he was a great clan boss champion. So is Dracomorph. It's just that I think Jintoro is better than Dracomorph in the long run, because he applies weaken and decrease defense on a hit, whereas Dracomorph doesn't do a hit when he applies it. But other than that, I think their damage output is comparable as far as just their general hits go. But I think Jintoro does more damage in the long run because, like I said, he does 3 hits. Dracomorph only does 2, but he gets all those poisons off, so he can do a lot of damage with poisons. But then with this team comp, I've got Toxic Gear on Deacon and Seeker, so they do a hell of a lot of damage with poisons. So, kind of balances out, I think. Yeah, it's going to be about a 95, 96 run. Yeah, 96.27. Not too shabby. Before the nerf, I was doing over 100 million pretty consistently, so yeah, I'm not a fan. Not a fan of the Blessings nerfs for Phantom Touch and Smite, because that knocked down my damage output by, around 3 million consistently. Or 3 or more million consistently. Because I was hitting 98 to over 100 million every single day. Now I'm hitting more like 95 to 100. And more often than not, it's more like 95 to 98. So, yeah, really, really not a fan. Because, it's not just about doing a lot of damage. It's about trying to, like I said, knock out this damn HP to try to get the Ultra Nightmare cleared. So when I was doing over 100 million a day, if I did 2 runs, or, if the rest of the team can do that 800 million, the rest of that, well, actually more like 900 million between them, the rest of the clan who are capable of doing Ultra Nightmare, and I could do a couple of 100 million with my team, because I have the hardest hitting team in the clan, on one key anyway. And I'm not bragging, it's just clan bosses, like I said, it's my favorite thing in the game, so a lot of my focus on improving areas of the game, I usually go to clan boss for improvement first. I didn't show my great haul, that was the only thing I left off. So yeah, I've been slowly creeping up, trying to get 10 out of 10 for attack and crit damage on Magic Affinity, just because that's Jintoro's affinity, and Seekers. So even though, it's not optimal necessarily, getting accuracy, crit damage, and attack all the way up to 10 for Magic Affinity will have the greatest impact on my damage output for clan boss. But other than that, my Great Hall isn't too bad. I don't focus on it as much as I probably should, but then I don't really like PvP that much. I don't have any sacreds to try to pull for the double event. Not that I really want to. I want to try to save up any shards I get for the next time Brogni's on a times 10. Am I likely to get him even then? No, not really, but I really want to get a Brogni to experiment with. I'd really love to try to put together one of those infinite shield teams. I don't know if it's still viable like it used to be when it first happened. I do have the Corpulent Cadaver. No, this doesn't appear to have been nerfed. Damage is equal to 30% of the value of the shield. So if you have a massive shield on him, Corpulent Cadaver should still do huge amounts of damage. This is my idea for doing a Brogni-based infinite shield team is, you have Brogni. I can use Valkyrie to apply the initial shield and counterattack. And then I've got, that would leave me with 3 slots open. So I've got Demytha I could use as a buff extender. I have, let's see, where is she? Makes it easier. No, not that far. There you are, Sandlash Survivor. I've got Sandlash Survivor that I could use as a buff extender. Only problem is that kind of need a decrease attack. But I'm thinking, Brogni himself can put a shield on. I was just thinking maybe Valkyrie in the team to get that shield and counterattack, because if you apply the counterattack and if potentially can keep the shield and the counterattack buffs on the team, for the entire run, that would increase damage output considerably. And of course you have Corpulent Cadaver you can use for the shield boost from damage. And as far as DPS goes, there's lots of options there. It's really you need Brogni to apply to do the shield extension. The reason Krisk is so important is because I believe not only does he immediately put a shield on, so you don't actually have to apply the shield from anybody, he brings so many debuffs and buffs to your team that it really keeps, and he extends buffs, I believe. It's just he brings so many different skills and so many things to the table that without him you have to find ways to cover for him not being there. But you can use Skull Crusher to lay down ally protection and counterattack to help mitigate damage and keep the shield up. As far as dealing with the stun, again, can potentially use Demytha as one of the buff extenders / debuff decreasers, because so she could potentially, if you could set it up right, she could clear the stun. So yeah, there's possibilities there. I want to play around with it, but I can't do it at all without Brogni, because he's the only champion in the game that has the ability to increase the size of shields. So no Brogni, no infinite shield team. But anyway, that is more than enough time on this video. Thanks for watching. If you are still here with me all the way through this thing, double thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video, share the video, leave comments for the algorithms, because all that stuff really does help get the channel and the videos out in front of more eyeballs. That's just how YouTube works. And of course, subscribe and hit that bell so you know when I put up new videos, when YouTube bothers to notify you even then, because they don't always. You just gotta love YouTube's BS. But what other platform really is there? C'est la vie. So once again, thank you very much everybody for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.